Welcome to True Unseen Crime, where shadows speak and silence is rarely innocent. On this channel, we uncover stories buried beneath fear, loyalty, betrayal, and cold deception. If you enjoy gripping true crime stories with twists, emotion, and suspense, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Stars in the distance, far away and unreachable. For the first time in his life, he didn't know where he belonged. Lena had kept her distance in the days after the trial. Jake knew why. She had been instrumental in bringing down Margot Hale, but there was something in her eyes that spoke of a deeper burden. She hadn't just been protecting him from Margot, she had been protecting him from the truth, from the darkness that was now a part of him. But as the silence stretched on, Jake knew he couldn't hide from it anymore. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, interrupting his thoughts. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. He hesitated for a moment, then picked it up. Jake, a voice said on the other end. It was smooth, calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. I think it's time we had a conversation. Jake's pulse quickened. He recognized the voice. It was Caleb. What do you want? Jake asked, his voice tight with apprehension. I think you know what I want. The same thing I've always wanted, Caleb replied. I want out. I want to walk away from everything. But I can't do it alone. I need your help. Jake stood up, pacing the small room as he tried to process what Caleb was saying. After everything, after Caleb's betrayal, his role in the conspiracy, he was asking for help? Why should I trust you? Jake asked, his voice low. You're the reason all of this happened in the first place. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Caleb spoke again. I don't expect you to trust me. But you don't have a choice. The people I've been working with, they're not going to stop. And if I go down, so do you. Everything you've learned, everything you've uncovered, they'll bury it. They'll bury you with it. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The pieces were falling into place. Caleb wasn't just talking about the past. He was talking about the present. There were still people out there, powerful people who had a vested interest in keeping the truth hidden. Who are they? Jake demanded. Caleb's voice dropped to a whisper. I can't say over the phone. But meet me. Tomorrow night. Same place we always used to meet. I'll tell you everything. Jake didn't respond immediately. He was torn between the need for answers and the lingering doubt about Caleb's motivations. But something about the urgency in his voice felt real. And Jake knew that if he didn't take this opportunity, the truth might slip through his fingers forever. I'll be there, Jake said finally. The line went dead. The next evening, Jake found himself standing in the same dimly lit parking garage where his life had taken its first unexpected turn. The concrete pillars loomed like silent witnesses to the twisted drama that had unfolded between the Fletchers and Margot Hale. As the minutes ticked by, Jake's mind raced. What was Caleb going to say? Was he really trying to make amends? Or was this just another game? Another way to manipulate him into playing by someone else's rules? Finally, he saw him. Caleb emerged from the shadows, his face still bearing the scars of their last encounter. But there was something different about him now, something worn, like a man who had run out of options. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach as he approached. What's this about, Caleb? You said you had answers. Caleb's eyes darted around, nervous. I do. But you need to understand something first. Margot Hale wasn't the mastermind of this operation. She was just the face. The real power, the real threat, is much bigger than you think. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Bigger? What are you talking about? Caleb swallowed hard before continuing. There's a network, a global one. People at the very top. The ones who made all the decisions. Margot was working for them, not the other way around. And they're still out there. They won't stop until every last trace of the Fletcher family is erased. Jake's mind was spinning. So, what does this have to do with you? I was always just a pawn, Caleb admitted. But I didn't realize how deep it went until after Margot got arrested. I thought I could keep my distance, but the people behind this, they've already made it clear. If I don't play along, they'll make sure I'm the one who takes the fall. Jake's gaze hardened. So, you're asking me to help you take them down? Caleb nodded slowly. Not just me. We take them all down. together. Before Jake could respond, a loud crash echoed through the garage, and the sound of footsteps rushing toward them broke the stillness. Jake turned just in time to see a group of masked men emerge from the shadows, guns raised. Caleb's face twisted with fear. I didn't, but it was too late. The loud crash of boots echoed in the otherwise empty garage as the masked men advanced toward Jake and Caleb. The cold, metallic click of their weapons being cocked sent a shiver down Jake's spine. He had barely enough time to react before one of the figures lunged toward him, gripping his arm in a vice-like hold. For a moment, everything went still, as if the world were holding its breath. Caleb, his face pale and filled with panic, tried to back away, his hands raised in submission. I didn't do it, Caleb pleaded, his voice cracking. I don't want any part of this anymore. Jake's mind raced. He wasn't sure who these men were, who had sent them, but it was clear now. The stakes had escalated. His family's ties to the criminal empire were far deeper than he had realized, and there was no way out. Not anymore. He struggled against the grip of the man holding him, but the person was too strong, too well-trained. Every move Jake made only made the situation worse. In the distance, the sounds of more footsteps approaching confirmed that this wasn't just a random encounter, it was an orchestrated attack. Caleb's voice trembled, his eyes wild. Jake, you need to run. They'll kill us both. But before Jake could process what was happening, the man holding him tightened his grip, forcing him to his knees. Caleb's voice barely reached his ears as the world began to blur around him. You're not who you think you are, Caleb whispered. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as the words echoed in his mind. Was Caleb telling him the truth? What had been the point of this twisted game they'd all been playing? Had the entire battle between him, Margot, and the family been about something much bigger than he could fathom? One of the masked men stepped forward, removing his mask to reveal a familiar face, one Jake had not seen in years. Sharp and commanding, cut through the tension. That's where you're wrong, Mr. Fletcher. Jake's father turned, his expression darkening as Lena stepped out from behind one of the pillars, a gun held firmly in her hands. She was calm, poised, like she had been preparing for this moment her entire life. You've been part of the game all along, she continued, her voice unwavering. And now it's time to end it. All of it. Jake's father's eyes flashed with anger, but before he could react, Lena fired a warning shot into the air. The force of the blast reverberated through the garage, and for a moment, everyone stood still. I've been waiting for this moment for years, Lena said, her eyes locked on Jake's father. You thought you could control everything, Jake. But you underestimated one thing. You underestimated me. Lena's words echoed in Jake's mind. He had trusted her, relied on her, but now it seemed like there was even more to her story than he had realized. She wasn't just a protective ally. She was part of something much larger, a game he had never understood. You're not just here to help me, Jake said, the realization dawning on him. Lena's expression softened, just a fraction. No. I'm here to finish what was started. To put an end to the empire your father created. Jake's mind spun as the full scope of what was happening hit him. This wasn't just about Margot or the family secrets. This was about power. It was about a network of influence, corruption, and control that spanned far beyond the Fletcher name. His father's gaze shifted between Lena and Jake, his fury barely contained. You think you can take this from me? You think you can tear down everything I built? Lena took a step closer, her gun aimed squarely at Jake's father. No. We're not taking it. We're destroying it. The words hung in the air like a challenge. A final stand, a reckoning for all the lives ruined by the empire Jake's father had built. With one last glance at Jake, his father sneered. You'll never win. You're too weak. Lena's eyes were filled with empathy, but there was something else there too, something hard. Now you do what you were always meant to do. You choose your own path. You rebuild from the ashes. The empire is gone. The Fletchers are gone. You don't have to live in their shadow anymore. Jake looked down at his father's body, the man who had defined his world for so long. There was no sense of closure, no sense of justice. Just an overwhelming sense of loss. But beneath that loss was a flicker of something else, hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he could move forward. "I'm not sure I know how to rebuild," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Lena's hand rested on his shoulder, grounding him. "You don't have to know. You just have to start." The following weeks were a blur of activity. The news of his father's death spread quickly, and the investigation into the Fletcher Empire's criminal activities took on a life of its own. The truth about Jake's family was exposed to the world in a way that shook the very foundation of the corporate world. Their empire, built on lies, manipulation, and deceit, collapsed in a matter of days. But for Jake, the world outside didn't matter. What mattered now was how he would move forward. The ties to his past had been severed, and while that was a relief, it also left him feeling untethered, lost in a world that no longer made sense. Lena remained by his side, though her role in the aftermath was far from clear. She had helped him take down his father, but she had also been part of the machinery that had made the Fletcher Empire what it was. It was a complicated relationship, one that neither of them knew how to navigate. But despite the complexity, Jake knew that he couldn't do this alone. He didn't have all the answers, but he had a choice now, a choice to make his own future, free from the shadow of his family's past. He didn't have to be his father's son. He didn't have to follow in the footsteps of those who had built their world on lies. He could rebuild. He could find peace. And for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe it. The Hollow Bloodline was a story of betrayal, power, and the struggle to break free from the past. As Jake navigates his way through the wreckage of his family's empire, he finds that the only way forward is to confront the truth, no matter how painful it may be. In the end, the question isn't whether Jake can escape the legacy of the Fletchers, but whether he can find a new path, a path that doesn't lead back to the darkness. The end of one story is the beginning of another. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more suspenseful, thought-provoking stories. Stay tuned for the next one. Who knows what mysteries await?